Governor Ron DeSantis is now threatening to arrest school teachers because they have the audacity to have books in the classroom, just regular books. Let me give you this story. Teachers in Manatee County, this is in Florida obviously, are being told to make their classroom libraries and any other unvetted book inaccessible to students or risk felony prosecution. You need to hear this. Felony prosecution for school teachers that have books in the classroom. The new policy is part of an effort to comply with the new laws and regulations championed by Governor Ron DeSantis, a Republican. It is based on the premise promoted by right-wing advocacy groups that teachers and librarians are using books to groom students or indoctrinate them with leftist ideologies. Now remember, this is coming from the same governor who basically said during a press conference not too long ago that it is okay to lie to children and dismiss the reality of America's racist history. He's okay with that kind of revisionist history. But he's not okay with school teachers who have been trained, have gone to school, who have been certified by the state in order to teach curriculum. He does not trust them to make this decision. He trusts who? Oh, the extremist right-wing agenda. Those are the people pushing him. That is their agenda they're pushing. All right, Kevin Chapman. Kevin Chapman is the chief of staff for the county school district, told Popular Information that the policy was communicated to principals in a meeting last Wednesday. Individual schools are now in the process of informing teachers and other staff. Teachers in the county lamented the news on social media. One said, "My heart is broken for Florida students today as I am forced to pack up my classroom library." Let's put up the full post here, okay? It goes on to say, due to the new law that went into effect on December 31st, all teachers must remove all books that have not been vetted by the state or risk being charged with a third-degree felony and losing our license to teach. This applies to both public and government-funded charter schools. The vetting process for new books is cumbersome. So even accepting donated books from parents and community members will not be allowed. The process of finding the list of approved books is also incredibly difficult. Now remember, all of this is difficult by design. It is difficult by design. They are not allowing best practices in education to inform the decision here. Powers that be are simply creating. They are creating mass policy predicated on one dynamic, white supremacy. And I'm going to explain how that connects in just a moment. All right, another teacher called the directives a travesty to education. That interfered with efforts to connect with books and develop a loving and lifelong learning. Farewell, classroom library. We'll see you soon. Now I want you to see that picture. Look at that picture, okay? Does that look like something that a person should be arrested for felony acts for? That right there. Books. Books. Hashtag save our libraries, hashtag trust teachers, hashtag readers are leaders, hashtag DeSantis, which is great, hashtag Florida. As an educator, I have spent the past 18 years of my life dedicated to providing students with quality literature, helping them connect with books and develop a love of lifelong learning. Receiving notice today that classroom libraries are to be dismantled is a travesty to education, yes. The future of our children and our nation. In an interview with Popular Information, Mr. Chapman said that the policy was put into place last week in response to House Bill 1467, which is now signed into law by DeSantis. That law established that teachers could not be trusted to select books appropriate for their students. In Florida, school librarians are called media specialists and hold media specialist certificates. A rule passed by the Florida Department of Education last week states that a library media center includes any books made available to students, including in classrooms. This means that classroom libraries that students that are curated by teachers, not librarians, are now illegal. They are illegal against the law. There was ambiguity about this during the signing of the bill. As a matter of fact, some Republicans assumed when they backed the play of Governor DeSantis, they were not going to eliminate a teacher's ability to teach. So the Department of Education basically weighed in on the policy later, which provided this now conclusive result that DeSatan wanted in the beginning. Now, what do we have so far? So the state of Florida says you cannot teach based on your literature in the classroom. Now it is a felony. They already passed the Stop Woke Act, the Don't Say Gay Act, the Can't Teach African American Studies Act. Now, damn it, I mean what I'm about to say. Some teachers are gonna have to get arrested for this to stop. And I promise you, if I was still a K through 12 educator, they would have had to lock my ass up before they ever took a book out of my classroom with my students. At least they would have known what side I was on. Now, I don't say that lightly because I know it's already difficult for what teachers have to go through on a regular basis. I was adopted by a school teacher. My mother is a school teacher. She saved my life. I became a school teacher because of her. I'm a college professor today. I worked as a high school teacher, a high school principal. This is not about education. This is about creating a mind that's apathetic to the reality of this country. Here's what they know. They know the students, those scholars, those young scholars, are the future decision makers of America. They know that these young scholars will correct what they broke, will fix what they destroyed. And when that happens, the indictment will be upon them. They know that these children are going to remedy the social ills created by them and their ancestors. This is not about protecting children, ladies and gentlemen. This is about protecting themselves. Please understand what's happening here. And now I have to bypass all of the bureaucracy. I have to bypass the politicians and talk directly to the teachers. Once again, I don't say this lightly. You're gonna have to stand up. I will stand up with you. I will do whatever I can. I would try to provide some legal counsel by way of paying for some lawyers to help, whatever I can do, but you cannot let them do this. If they continue to do this, it's going to permeate throughout this whole country. The man is going to run for president. What do you think he's going to do? Leave it all in Florida? You think he's going to leave it in Florida? Listen, Dr. King had a very simple strategy. Dr. King had to show the world how egregious the activity was happening in the South. So he had to provide contrast. People who were college students, high school students, had to become inmates in order to get things to change. It is a sobering sentiment, I know. But I promise you, there are some things worth getting arrested for, and children are definitely at the top of the list. All right, Sharon, thoughts here.
Dr. Richey, I have chills. As you know, I'm the daughter of a teacher and a principal, but I have chills because I agree with everything you said. I am sharing the screen today with a man who loves learning so much. He's a doctor. He can't stop learning and wants to share with others. I have chills. If only people would vet the politicians the way this governor wants to vet books. Instead of being against everything. I mean, he loves being ignorant. It should be called the Stay Ignorant Act, because that's what he desires. And you're exactly right, dangerous. There are children, Dr. Richey, I'll end with this, who don't even have a book. You and I worked at the same place before. Remember, we would gift them their very first book bag full of books.
That's right.
And their eyes were filled with joy, and they compared and wanted to trade. And now this fool down in Florida wants to spread his ignorance, really like a communicable disease. He really wants to spread this thing, you're right, throughout the country. It's sick, it can't happen.
I concur. There has to be a leader somewhere. I mean, in the whole state, there's not a superintendent of schools, there's not a school board chairperson, there's not a group of affiliated professionals in education who are willing to stand up in specific ways, file lawsuits, yes. Sometimes you just have to stand there and let them make the next move, right? All right, we're gonna continue to follow this story and all of the other ridiculous stories coming out of Florida.